国50年，从来没有像现在这么恐惧过，从来没有像现在一样气愤过。恐惧什么？恐惧我坐 subway 会被人家推到 subway 下面去，恐惧我走到 sidewalk 上会被人家打。现在我更恐惧，我住的 apartment 会被人家破门而入。愤怒是什么？我的愤怒是，政府难道一点事情都做不了吗？大家说 defunding police， 我们看到 defunding police 的 result 在哪里？我们安全在哪里？我们今天全体的华人，包括我们的 Korean brothers and sisters， 都在这里，在那条线上，我们要把纽约州、纽约市不公平的待遇把它更正过来，相信我们一定能做到。Dear brothers and sisters, my name is Justin Yu, the president of the CCBA in Chinatown. I'm here today to show my solidarity with my brothers and sisters of Brooklyn, of Queens, Staten Island, Bronx, and Brooklyn here, and in Manhattan. And I'm very impressed that the organizer has invited our Korean brothers and sisters here today. You know, I have been here in this country for 50 years. I come here looking for freedom. I come here looking for a better life. People say, when you are in the United States, you don't have to worry about somebody will knock your door in the middle of the night, will take you away. But now what happened today? We are riding subways. We might be pushed to the subway track. We walk in the sidewalk. Somebody might attack us. Now even your own apartment, we are no longer safe. What happened? What happened?
你一个人在
Are
看
we going the same path
清不
like
清
San
楚？
Francisco and California? No way. We are here today to stop this trend. No bill, no jail, they kill. We have to stop them.
不止了5
We
个人
are no longer victims. We don't want to be victims.
签署的话告诉我呀。
We want a safe environment for all of us. We want a safe environment for my family, for your family, for every family in the city, for our children, for our grandchildren. God bless America. God bless New York. We are going to fight for our city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, President Yu, who's working hand in hand with Mr. John Chang to one rollback bail reform, to refund the police, and to keep us, New York City, safe. And make no mistake, the attacks are happening all over the city. It is not just an Asian community problem. Make no mistake, this is not just about Asians. Everybody is getting attacked. At this point, we have 3 Chinatowns, and we heard from Brooklyn's Chinatown, we've heard from Manhattan's Chinatown. Now let's hear it from Queens Chinatown, who is part of the coalition, and who is here is Mr. Kenneth Chu. Kenneth. One.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm Kenneth Chu, the Vice President of the Coalition of Asian Americans for Civil Rights. I want to thank our Chairman and President, John Chan, Phil, many leaders here, many friends that I've met over the last few years, and the supporters that came out on this cold day. We also have to thank the NYPD there, very quietly ensuring that this is a safe rally. As the organizers asked me to speak, I was thinking of what to say. And I thought, there's nothing that I have not said, that the people here and their families, their friends, New Yorkers have not said. I do not know how we can make this more loud and clear. standing here in Sunset Park, predominantly immigrants, they come to America for a safe place, for peace. And that is the basic function of our government, to ensure people's safety. And we need to restore that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. We're on a time crunch. We have to clear this section soon, so I got to roll. Next, we have Mr. Ray Wang, of the American New York Chinese Association. Ray?
Thank you everybody to be here today. 首先感谢大家这么冷的天气来参加我们这次的聚会。今天我们的聚会不是什么演唱会，也不是什么表演，是怀着沉痛的心情来悼念这几个离世的无辜的生命。现在纽约市包括每一个社区治安问题、游民问题，我们必须大声地、大胆地说出来。这些人的无辜离世是什么原因？是社会的治安问题、游民问题。所以我们现在要求政府马上停止在每一个社区中心新建游民所。No shelter.
No shelter. No shelter.
没有人希望你打开门，甚至你出门扔一个垃圾，你的游民就跟你，这些游民就跟你进去你的家门。你的小孩子读书回来，游民就跟着小孩子进来。我们希望政府真正帮到游民，而不是官商勾结。游民需要真正的帮助，而不是把他放进游民所，白天要放出来，这不是真正在帮助游民。所以有很多极左的政客拿着政府的游民的借口，说要新建游民所，这是他们官商勾结，他们不是真正在帮游民。大家想想看，在这个地方如果建一个游民所，大家还会这么安心放心的站在这里吗？
不会 ，No。
所以政府跟那些政客根本不是在真正帮助游民，而是利用游民的借口，是利用这些借口。所以我们大家无论如何必须出来说出来，大声说出来，不要说游行社会没用，游行社会有用。我们不但要游行社会，还要大规模的游行社会，还要有足够的声音、足够的人数，政府才会在乎。难道我们什么都不做，就让8大道或者哪一个社区，每一个社区全部都是游民所？大家同意吗？就是嘛。
No shelter. No shelter. No shelter.
No shelter.
No shelter.
我们要求政府修改免保释金法律。他们不是在帮社区，而是在培养罪犯。大家想想看，犯了法抓进去，不要钱保释，那就证明犯罪免代价，不要代价了，那在培养罪犯，这就对社区根本是危害社区。我们华人提倡安居乐业，没有稳定的社会秩序，没有安全的社会治安，大家不放心上班做工，哪里可以发展经济？所以我们要政府 马上修改这些不公平的法律。
Thank you. Mr. John Chan and Mr. Justin Yu and Mr. Ray Wang and all have all the speeches have one thing in common, is that we need to roll back the bail reform. And in this case, Mayor Eric Adams is 100% correct when he was in Albany a couple of days ago, demanding a rollback. And what do we get? I believe the answer was, we got to look at the data. I think that's what Andrew Stewart Cousin said. Data. Look, you don't have to look at the data. Just buy a copy of any newspaper in New York City. Every other day, you have stabbings, killings. It's not even about guns. People kill with the knives, with their hands, with their feet. The victims here today, none of them were killed by guns. There's your data. Okay, next. We are very honored to have two Congress members here today to join us in this fight. It's hard to introduce who's first, but since Mr. Lee Zeldin was here before anybody else, ladies and gentlemen, Congressman Lee Zeldin.
Lee Zeldin! Lee Zeldin!
One life lost is one life too many. And I can see in your faces how very personal this is for each and every one of you. And it is an honor for me to be here on this very important Saturday morning.
Lee 非常感谢邀请过来，在今天这个早上，礼拜六早上来参加，跟大家团聚一起，为这个收容所，为这个纪念这个受害人的大会来跟大家一起。
Grateful for all the hosts who are here for their leadership. My colleague in Congress, Nicole Malliotakis, is here.
Yeah, Nicole!
And a huge thank you to all of the men and women in the NYPD who are here keeping us safe.
很多谢还有各位议员 Malliotakis 来参加，也要多谢各位的执法的人员的警察，今天这么冷跑出来，一整天了为保护我们，为我们的安全而服务。
First, with regards to shelters, the homeless policy in this city has been a disgrace. Success isn't putting someone who's homeless into a shelter. Success is getting people out of shelters to be able to live safe, free, independent lives.
目前纽约市的游民政策呢是非常非常坏，开收容所了，然后把游民填进去填满，它这个不是成功的政策，绝对不是。成功的政策是他们有自己的房子，自己的 affordable housing 安居乐业，那才是成功的游民政策。
And you all need to be respected. Your voice should be heard loud and clear by the amount of people who are here right now, that those who are in government should listen to each and every one of you and your wishes, because this is your community first and foremost.
今天有这么多居民出来抗争了，民选官员呢应该尊重我们的声音，应该听取我们的声音，因为这个是我们的家，我们的社区。
These streets should belong to law-abiding New Yorkers. And these streets right now are being turned over to criminals. And that is wrong, and we must change that today.
现在目前的街道了，应该是有守法的居民有权享用，现在呢都给罪犯了霸占了，罪犯控制了，我们都不敢出来了。
Instead of putting handcuffs on the criminals, they're putting handcuffs on all of us and our law enforcement, our criminal justice system. It is all of us with the handcuffs on it instead of putting the handcuffs on the people committing the crimes.
执法人员的工作应该是把罪犯抓住，可是呢，目前的制度呢都是法官啊等等啊，没办法执法，没办法去维护这我们社区的治安，连警察都没有，很多权利都给拿掉了。
People are being attacked on these streets because they are Asian. They're being attacked on these streets because they're wearing a yarmulke and they're Jewish. In this city of tolerance, nobody should be attacked with violent hatred in any form.
目前有很多攻击了，是因为我们是亚裔，因为他们是犹太裔，因为他的服装看来像是犹太裔，所以很多居民都给攻击了。这个呢是非常非常坏。
I am running for governor of New York to repeal cashless bail.
我现在目前竞选纽约州州长，我的目标呢就是把这个cash bail reform 呢，把这个握发了，把它废掉。
I am running for governor because I unapologetically love our men and women in blue.
我竞选州长，因为我支持我爱护我们纽约市的警察。
Lee Zeldin! Lee Zeldin! Lee Zeldin! Lee Zeldin!
I am running for governor of New York because these streets belong to you and not the criminals.
我是竞选纽约州州长，因为街道是我们居民的，不是罪犯的。
We will honor the lives that have been lost by finding within us the passion, the dedication, the love, and the fight for what is right, to make sure that for our kids, that they can feel safe on these streets, and that we can be proud New Yorkers once again feeling secure, leaving our homes, living in our homes, walking in our streets, traveling in our subways. This city belongs to all of us. It no longer belongs to any of these criminals. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Lee. 为了受害人，为了我们的孩子，我们的子孙，我们要出来争取我们应有的权利，都是把我们的社区拿回来，不让在罪犯在外面任所欲为。Thank you. Thank you, Lee. Okay, next, it is our Congresswoman, District 11, Nicole Maliotakis. Nicole.
I try my Chinese. Sawan, ni hao, ni hao ma. It's good to see all of you. And it's sorry that we have to be here for this particular occasion. But as I have said so many times before, it is clear that the politicians who are controlling the city, who are controlling Albany, have not heard us loud and clear enough.
So let's be loud.
Yes. So that is why we are here today, because I see the signs that you are all holding. Bring back safety to New York City. Bring back law and order to New York City. Enough is enough. Repeal bail reform now. The bottom line is, notice that the very politicians that voted to defund the police and cut 1/6 of their budget, notice the very politicians in Albany who voted to implement this ridiculous bail law. Notice the politicians whose parole board keeps releasing criminals, murderers, and convicted felons back onto our streets. Notice those who have decided to put in place these dangerous policies are not here today.
大家要注意的，很多政客了，当初投票赞成这个废除这个保释金啊，让罪犯抓了马上放，这政客了都不在场啊，今天都没有来啊。
who from years ago were warning that the policies being put in place were going to have a destructive effect on this city. And guess what? Unfortunately, we were right.
他一早已经看到这个废除这个保释金这个法律了，为纽约时代来摧毁性的效果。他不幸这个说的话说对了，不幸严重了。
Even after we've seen these horrific murders in our community,
你的不
one
清楚吗？
after another. After we read every day in the newspaper about somebody who's been released back on the streets who should be in jail, hurt somebody else. After we see these statistics, every category of crime, from rape to robbery, to burglary, to car theft, to assault, to hate crimes, all increasing year after year. The people in Albany have the audacity, our governor and our legislative leaders in Albany have the audacity to tell us that they're not going to make any
看
changes to
见
the
那
bail
个
law.
是 Kenny 啊。
现在纽约警察局放出来的数据是非常清楚，所有罪案，无论打劫啊、强奸啊、地铁逃票啊、打人等等的数字全面上升啊。但是我们Albany 的警察都说的不会对这个法律有不会收回的这个废除，所以我们非常的失望。
So I thank all of you for being here today. I thank my good colleague, Congressman Lee Zeldin, also for being here today. And we need to continue to speak out. We need to continue to rally. You need to continue to call your elected officials and tell them enough is enough. We want our city back. And I think, Justin, you said it
Kenny, how are
perfectly.
you today?
I'm also the daughter of immigrants.
他
And as
看到了
Justin said earlier, he came to this country to achieve an American dream. As my mother and my father did, as so many of you did or your parents did. And that is the American dream we need to preserve for the future. And we're seeing how they're trying to dismantle education, how they're trying to dismantle public safety, how they are expecting you to work more so they can take more from you. All of us are going to continue to work all against that. But we need you to be out here and really let your elected officials know, whether it's today, whether it's election day, you need to make sure your voices are heard. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you. Our next speaker is a longtime supporter of Brooklyn's Chinatown from District 49, Assemblyman Abate.
Thank you very much. Usually I say I'm very happy to be here, but this is not a happy occasion. This is an occasion where we really want to be together. We gave our respects and all, but we want to go forward.
各位，通常我们在打招呼的话，我们会说大家好，但今天我们要跟大家说我们不好。今天我们真的需要听见大家的声音，了解大家的意见。
And as I heard before, that were the Eric Adams, but the thing to know is the Bill de Blasio era is over. It's over. We now have a mayor in the city who believes in law and order, who will support our police and make sure we go ahead and do the right thing for our community.
在这里，我们要很明确的让大家知道，过去的政策没有用，过去那是白思豪政府的政策。今天我们亚当斯政府的政策，他是站在我们这边，他是要保护我们，他也上了州府，他也试着要说服改变现状，所以我们一定要充满希望。我们现在有机会可以改变。
Just yesterday, the mayor came out with the governor to have our subways go back to transportation and not be a place where people sleep, eat, and commit crimes.
昨天，如果你们有看新闻，你也会发现，亚当斯政府跟我们的州长 Hochul， 他在政策上面也推出了新的政策，不再会有游民可以在地铁里面睡觉。今天这些他已经采取行动了。
And as people talk about our bail laws in here, and our leaders might not want to do things, but I will tell you, by the time this session is over, there will be reforms to that bail law. Most of my colleagues that are around our neighborhood here have already introduced legislation, which I'm a sponsor of, to make drastic changes in those bail laws.
针对大家担心的保释金改革的部分，我们议员也要重申，也要强调，我们今年的议会期间一定会有新的修正。我们有听见大家的声音，在很多法案上面，他有同僚已经提出法案，他本人也签署了支持这样的法案。今年我们一定会推动在保释金改革上面，一定会收回不需要不明确的政策，我们要改回让我们的社区更安全。
And as my colleague Nicole Mayutakis said, it's important for every one of us to stick together, to talk to elected officials, to make sure what they say is what they're going to do. We want to have no shelters. We want housing for people. We want better education for our children. We want more police on our streets. Then we need elected officials to vote, whether it's in Albany or in Washington, to get those funds back to New York City. We pay taxes. We don't need people voting no against New York State. And when it comes to that. So thank you very much. And I'm there and I will be there. And I'm just going to throw a plug in here. Irene is going to be there for us in the Senate. So thank you.
谢谢我们议员，在这边我们要重申，我们社区需要的是各方各面的合作，不论是跟我们国会议员Mayutakis 这边讲的，我们需要在联邦政府、在州政府这边需要看到各方各面站在我们社区，听见我们社区，不管我们需要更好的教育资源，或者是社区安全，这些我们议员我们都有听到。那未来我们也一定会携手合作，在这方面争取大家的意见。从此以后，我们再也不用上街，我们每一个人都可以感到安全，这才是我们真正需要的声音。谢谢。
Thank you. I have to move forward a little bit because we are seriously blocking the passengers getting off the subway. So I really have to speed it up. Okay. The next thing is we have received supportive statements from Assemblyman Mike Ternoosis, and it's right here. I'll just briefly read. I want to express my condolences to Ms. Christina Yuen Lee, Michelle Goh, and other victims who lost their lives from horrific crimes which should have been prevented. And then it goes on. And then in regards to the homeless shelter, I have been asking that they take community input and elected official input into account when they make these decisions. So I thank you, Assemblyman Michael Ternoosis. Statement of support. Thank you. Also, we have a statement from Council Member Ina Vernikoff, which again, I'll be brief. Council Member Vernikoff stands on solidarity with our community during this dark time. Violent hate crimes against Asian Americans have increased tremendously, particularly against females. And that we need to fix the bail reform laws that allow violent criminals out in the streets, that's free to prey on innocent New Yorkers. And Council Member Vernikoff is committed to fighting for justice for all victims of violent crimes and for those in the Asian American community who have been targeted by hateful predators. Thank you. Thank you. And another statement is all the way from Queens, Councilwoman Vicky Palladino. Again, I'll be brief. Asian violence is on the rise again. Just last week, 35-year-old Christina Yuen Lee was stabbed to death by a criminal with 3 open cases in Manhattan Criminal Court. The criminal responsible for this gruesome murder has been arrested 7 times in the past 5 years. Thank you. The soft on crime approach in New York is leading to unprecedented levels of crime. Violence towards the Asian American community is 100% preventable if the people were elected to do their job. They were actually doing their job. Prosecute the criminals. Stop passing racial, nonsensical criminal justice reform legislation that puts all of our lives in danger. Councilwoman Palladino, thank you. Thank you for the statement. Our next speaker, our next speaker will be representatives from this community and other communities that come to show our support. First, we have from the Korean community, Mr. Terrence Park of the Asian Americans Voters Alliance. He was with us at the Manhattan Vigil, and he's coming to Brooklyn. Terrence.
Thank you. It's good to be in Brooklyn, home of New York City Nets. Let me hear some noise from Brooklyn. Stop Asian hate! Stop Asian hate! Stop Asian killing! Stop Asian killing! In memory of victims of hate crimes, let us have a moment of silence for their souls. How many of us has to be spitted in the face before we feel dignified human being? How many of us has to be punched and slashed in the face before we see the whole face? How many of us has to be pushed into the coming train before we feel free from horror of death? How many of us has to be stabbed and bled to death before we feel no more pain? I don't care whether the perpetrator is mentally ill or not. We want to believe. We don't want to be killed. We want to be protected. We want safety now. 17 years ago in Montgomery, Alabama, Miss Rosa Parks refused giving up her seat demanded by bus driver because it was the right thing to do. It was morally right to conscience of America. Therefore, people got together, black, white, Asian, brown, Jewish, and Gentile. We all got together and lifted up the torch of equality.
Come on.
77 years after, we are still seeing, witnessing horrible, insidious hate crimes. And we must rise together as a people to stop this nonsense. In the hope of safety and stop Asian killing, I want you to join me and say after me, stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian hate.
Stop Asian killing.
Stop Asian killing.
We want safety.
We want safety.
We want protection.
We want protection.
When do we need? Now. When do we need? Now. God, I can't hear you. When do we need?
Now.
When do we need? Now. Thank you. God bless America.
Thank you, Mr. Park. And our next speaker is the founding president of my organization. I'm the current president, but she's the founding president, the Chinese American Citizens Alliance of Greater New York, Wang.
Thank you all for coming here on such a beautiful day, but with sorrow in our hearts, with sadness, and with anger. We are angry because we are not safe on the streets, and we need to deal with the issue first of safety. We need to have our politicians who created this mess to turn it around. You created this mess, fix it. Fix it by making sure that our law-abiding citizens are safe on the streets. They're locked in their homes right now when we know who should be locked up. The criminals should be locked up, and so we should lock them up. We need to have our safety before anything for all of our New Yorkers, not just for Asians. This is hurting everybody. When people cannot feel safe going on the subway, when people cannot feel on the streets, when people cannot feel safe in their own homes.
Safe for everybody.
We want safety for everybody. Who crime.
Stop the crime.
Say yes
Yes.
to safety.
Yes to safety.
Thank you all. And now we have to go to the next step of what every one of you have to do. Every one of you have to speak to the politicians and the candidates, the people who are holding office, and somebody who can talk to you about this is Yatin.
Yes. Our next speaker has been an activist ever since de Blasio proposed to cancel the specialized high school exams and then canceling the gifted and talented programs. She has founded a political club that will hear out all candidates, all parties from all parts of the city, and we're going to hear them on how they could help the Asian community in exercising common sense, fight crime, and to make the city safer. Ladies and gentlemen, of the founding president of Asian Wave Alliance, Yatin Chu.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Weiwa, for the great introduction. Good afternoon. My name is Yatin Chu. In New York City, we have 9 assembly districts with over 30% Asians, and 4 Senate districts where 1 in 4 are Asian, including one just created for us in this year's redistricting process. The highest population of Asians are now in Senator John Liu's district in Queens with 58%, and in Assembly Member Ron Kim's district where 7 out of 10 are Asian. However, the growth in the Asian population in Brooklyn and Queens does not translate into voting power. Why? Because we do not vote. I spoke to a candidate in Queens last month. He said he door knocked in his very Asian district of mostly Chinese families and learned that many were not registered to vote, or only one person in the household was registered, even though many others were eligible. He told me he really didn't need that many Asian votes to win because he can rely on the white and the Hispanic voters. That's the reality, even in Asian plurality districts. Today, I am energized by this rally because in this great country, we can speak our minds, and protests are part of democracy. I am also sad because we are often on the outside fighting upstream when it's a, quote, done deal, because we have no one on the inside with us in mind. This week, I saw the power of the San Francisco Asian parents. They turned out the vote, double their typical, and was credited in the landslide election to recall the 3 school board members. It gives me hope that when we put our minds to something, we will make it happen. On Thursday, I, along with 8 other parents, founded a new Asian political club. We as a community must be seen, not as a source of campaign fundraising or the obligatory Asian photo ops. We should be respected as an educated voting bloc that can swing elections. We have the numbers now. Let's put it to good use. I'm here with voter registration forms and scan codes to join Asian Wave Alliance, a new nonpartisan Asian political club. I ask you to join us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yatin. So she has her clipboard, and you see the clipboard. If you have not registered to vote, please do so today. Our next speaker is a longtime resident of Brooklyn and a longtime supporter of Brooklyn Chinatown, a district leader, Nancy Tong. Nancy.
I am mad! And I am upset! And I know all my brothers and sisters are mad and upset! Yes. My brothers and sisters are being killed! These are the innocent people! Why are they being killed? Because the system has failed us! What have they done? We subway system or walking out. These has to be changed. And what are they talking about? Building more homeless shelters in our area. You think that's gonna help those people? No. No way. No way they're gonna help those homeless shelters. They are making money out of it. They are making money. Well, we should all get together and let the government know that they should build more affordable housing, and in order to help those homeless shelters, people, we need to give them permanent housing. We need to have more social workers, and most of the people that live there needs medical help. And that's the only way we can help them. We help them, they help us. Because if we don't help them, they're gonna go out when their mental issues comes up, and who suffer? Our brothers and sisters will suffer. So we all need to unite and let the government know that they have to do their part. When they are elected to represent us, they have to listen to what we want them to do. Not don't let us know and then you get a letter and say, here, there's a homeless shelter being built right there. And that is not right. And if we all unite together, they will hear us. And thank you all for coming out today so that we can all have our voices be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Going back to the victims that we are commemorating, they're all, a lot of the perpetrators have two things in common. That one, they suffer from mental health issues, and two, they live in a nearby shelter near where they attacked. So this speaks volumes. The city, by building and warehousing the homeless in these shelters, their addiction issues are not getting addressed, their mental health issues are not getting addressed, and the community suffers. And we see this again and again and again. All right, the next set of speakers, we're going to move on to candidates that's running for office, as well as representatives from students and residents in this community, residents that live around here and the students that go to school around here. Our first speaker will be Miss Irene Chu, that you heard a few moments ago. She's running for the New York State Senate for the newly formed Brooklyn District. Irene?
谢谢。大家好，我知道我们打招呼刚刚已经讲过了，我们中文打招呼第一句大家好，我真的要跟大家说，我们不好。如果好，我们今天不会这么冷，要站在这边上街头，让政府听到我们的声音。你们看到这些照片了，我们到底要多少的生命，要这样子一次一次的在报纸上面？明明这些意外都可以被预防。现在的政策如果对我们的社区是好的，我们不需要站在这个地方。政府听到我们声音了吗？我希望他听到了，不然今天亚当斯的政府不会特地跟我们州长昨天宣布了有一些新的改变。我们需要改变的是什么？我们需要改变的是，不管哪个族裔，不管哪个年龄，不管哪个身份背景，你都需要坐地铁，你都需要感到安全。不管哪个族裔，不管哪个年龄，不管哪个身份，你都需要回家。我们需要感到安全，这很简单的事情。安全，不管你是什么身份，共和党、民主党，你有钱人或者是比较穷的人，我们都需要安全。这不是一个很过分的要求。今天我们来到了这里，我们来到了纽约，我们选择住在这里，照顾我们自己的家庭。安全不是一个可以协商、没有空间协商的东西。我们要求的就是有一个安全的家园。安居乐业很简单，做起来很难吗？不会啊。如果今天有一个我们自己的议员，我可以上州府。当今天社区有这个计划要出来的时候，我们有一个一席之地，我们有位置，我们有空间，我们有发言权。政府今天要在社区里面做任何改变的时候， 我们有一个自己的人可以站在里面，跟他们说：你等一下，你先听一听我们社区的声音。你等一下，你确定这个政策可以保护到我们的社区吗？这很难吗？这不难。需要的是什么？需要是每一个人，你们每一个人出来投票。需要你们用你们自己选票，你们的力量，你们的声音站出来。你们的力量不要小看。今天你们站在这里，你们要为自己感到非常的骄傲，因为今天你们的声音，我们全部的人都听到了，我们全部的人都必须尊重，也一定要尊重，因为我们要求的事情很简单，我们一定要做到，我们要的就是安全。谢谢大家。
Thank you, Ivy. Thank you. When streets are not safe, parents are the first to notice because they take their kids to school every day, because then they walk home alone after work or after school. So when kids are not safe, the parents will know first. And today we're here from a parent leader of a school that's just a couple blocks away from here. We have the PTA president of IS 187. And a longtime community activist, and most importantly, a former NYPD lieutenant, Mr. Vito Labella.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, everybody. I want to echo what Lee said. I want to thank the NYPD brothers and sisters out there. Wave, give them a hand. Give them a hand, right? This is a lot better than the protest from last year, right? They're smiling. You can't see their face. They have their masks on, but they're smiling. And I worked with Eric Adams in 1989. In 1989, if you can believe it, the subways were a heck of a lot worse. Platforms, mezzanines, full of homeless people, boxes you couldn't move. The mezzanines were flea markets. The trains were horrible, graffiti covered. And in 1989, Sergeant Labella and Eric Adams, Officer Eric Adams, we began the process of helping clean the subway. See, most of those cops out there, wave to them, they weren't even alive, right? So they don't understand this. There's no institutional memory. And for 25 years, we engaged in quality of life, broken windows, zero tolerance enforcement. And guess what? From 1990 until the former mayor started rolling back what we were doing, crime went down every single year. The subways were cleaner every single year. And over a 25-year period, we did something. The subways are the lifeblood of this city. It's what allows the working people to go from one neighborhood to another to get to their jobs, to keep the city going. And the subway and crime in the subway is the canary in the coal mine. Because if crime in the subway goes up, it affects and it impacts the entire city. And it's not enough that we hire more cops. We have to support the cops when we ask them to enforce all of these regulations and rules that Eric Adams said just yesterday that he wants to start doing it again. If Nicole Malatiakis had been mayor for the last 8 years, we wouldn't be here. Well, that was a mistake that she wasn't the mayor, and now we're going to rectify it. We are going to move forward. And when the cops are working their butts off, addressing all of these conditions, and it's not a fun thing to do, and it's not about harassing people. It's about sending the message that the police are watching. And if the police come up to you when you drink a beer or smoke a cigarette in the subway, the person said, oh, geez, I better be good because I smoked a cigarette and the cops came up to me. So I better not rob someone or cut someone's pockets, or God forbid. Do you know that there were 2 cops on the mezzanine in the subway station at Times Square when that poor woman was thrown in front of a train? Because even though the cops are standing there, the people know that they're just standing there with their hands in their pockets. They know that they are being handcuffed. They know that the public does, well, I shouldn't say that. We know some members of this city don't want them to do anything. But we're here to tell our cops that we have your back, that when you do and you take action, we will support you. When you make a mistake, We will not throw you to the wolves. That's the #1 thing. Because we're asking them to put their lives and their livelihoods and their families' lives and livelihoods on the line with them. So when something happens, they have to know that we have their back. And I'm the president of PTO 187, and I've been fighting. I see some of my families here, and I've been fighting for this community, for my families for 5 years. And I hope very shortly to continue to fight in a different way, but you know I will always have this community's back. Vito LaBella for New York, Vito LaBella for New York. I promise you I will continue to fight for this community.
Thank you, Vito. Yes, he was with us. He was with us at City Hall, to Albany, to Gracie Mansion, state Senate hearing rooms, Assembly hearing rooms, from saving the SHSAT to the gifted and talented program. So it's been an old friend. Okay, the next guest is a retired Navy officer and a community fighter, and the founder of the civic group Gold Places New York, Mr. Lester Chang.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Galway. My name is Lester Chang. 23 years I've been in the Navy. 14 years ago, I was in Afghanistan fighting against the Taliban. I can't believe it right now. We're fighting for our lives in our streets. Can't believe it. Now, we all talk about right now about shelter, social service, and all that. But there's no solution right now. All is about talk. That's why I form a group. Now we have a solution right now. Possible solution, but not a popular solution. Right now we have homeless people out on the streets. We have no treatments for them. All we do is shelter them, shelter in our neighborhood. But that's not the way. What I'm proposing is, let's create a transitional housing for homeless people at Rikers Island. There is 5,000 prisoners now. They used to house 15,000. We can repurpose those buildings to be a homeless shelter. So we can do my five principle. House them, feed them, treat them, train them, and pay them during their time. Again, treat them, house them, feed them, train them, and pay them. However long it takes. That is my proposal itself. Now, 140 years ago, Rikers Island was never a prisoner. 140 years ago, it was a military army base for training. I want to go back there again. Let's train these homeless people, treat them, and then we can, eventually we can put them in the mainstream. And thank you very much, Phil. Thank you.
Thank you, Lester. Yeah, well, we have to clear out the subway station very soon. So our next guest is a congressional candidate, Bernie Hamden. Bernie?
Thank you, Phil. Hi, everyone. First, I'd like to say thank you all for coming today. Today, I'm reminded that integrity, honesty, decency, and courage win. They win out despite all attempts to divide and conquer. Today, we stand shoulder to shoulder in the Asian community, in the freezing cold, as we remember the violence visited relentlessly upon our elders, women, men, and children. We are all reeling from the loss of Christina Yunalu, whose beautiful energy and light was stolen from failed leadership, neglect, and the inability to restore law and order. Christina's murder comes on the heels of the murder of Michelle Go and other innocent lives stolen from their loved ones in a seemingly endless streak of attacks. Everyone around me here has been present from the beginning, offering support and demanding change. We all stand in love and solidarity with lives ones. I look forward to the day when we no longer have to worry about taking the subway or walking home. It's un-American and must stop. According to Stop AAPI Hate, a group that has been tracking anti-Asian hate, more than 2,800 such incidents has been documented since last March, from violent attacks to verbal abuse. This is a wave that can be stopped by voting out the leaders who are calling this rise in crime a part of a national trend. You have another chance in November elections. We cannot stand with the party denouncing anti-Asian crime and promoting anti-police propaganda or any kind of anti-racism. No one should be silenced in the face of such atrocities. With you today, Benin Hamden, candidate for U.S. House in District 10. Let's fight back. Thank you for having me again.
Thank you. I was ordered that we have to clear this rally in a couple of minutes, so I really have to speed it up. So when I call your name, please be really brief, okay? Next, we have a Senate candidate from Queens, Mr. Stefano Forte.
Thank you very much, everybody. Today, we're all here to stand together and say no. No! 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 No to the shelters without our input. No to the crime on our streets. No to the hate crimes being committed. And this isn't just an Asian problem, or a Jewish problem, or a Hispanic problem. If any New Yorker is attacked, that means every New Yorker is attacked. Yeah. And we have leaders that are saying that this might be a national trend, this crime problem that we're having, that we don't know what the bail reform is really doing, and we need to see the data. I wish they could be here today because I have the data for them. This is the data. This is the data. The lives cut short is the data. The husbands, the wives, the daughters, the sons that have been killed, that is the data. Each and every one of us needs to stand together to say that we need more police on our streets. More police. We need less bail reform. We need to repeal it and give judges back discretion to look at somebody in front of them and say, is this person a flight risk? Is this person going to go out and commit another crime? So the people in Albany that are saying that they don't know what the real problem is, I know what the real problem is. They're the problem. We need to get rid of them because they have blood on their hands. They have this community's blood on their hands. So everybody say it with me, no more shelters. No more crime. Law and order. Thank you guys very, very much. My name is Stefano Forte, running for State Senate in Northeast Queens. Thank you very much. Stand together, stand united. We will stand together. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Stefano, for coming all the way from Queens to support us in Brooklyn. Our next candidate is running for U.S. Senate, Mr. Mark Sukerwich. Mark?
How you doing, everyone? Thank you all for being here and joining the fight. Right now, this neighborhood voted for a U.S. Senator and Chuck Schumer. Your Congress member is a Democrat. Your senator is a Democrat. Your mayor is a Democrat. Your governor is a Democrat. Your city council member is a Democrat. Your state assembly member is a Democrat. So the reason why this is happening is because of Democrats. I know people don't want to say it, whether Democrat or Republican, but let's face it, the Democrats are the ones that voted for the bail reform bill, which has increased our crime. They're the ones that voted to defund the police, and they're the ones that are destroying our city. They're the ones putting the homeless shelters in the community. And it's time that we vote them out. 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 I decided to run for U.S. Senate so that I could go and help Republican and conservative candidates all across New York State so that we can get rid of this bail reform bill, so that we could get rid of these shelters, because the people need housing, not shelters. They need rehabilitation programs, job training programs, and permanent housing, not shelters. So no homeless shelters, no homeless shelters, no homeless shelters, no homeless shelters. Once again, I know the permit is almost out, so we have to clear out soon. But I thank you all for here, joining the fight. And remember, when it comes to election day, you make sure you do not have Democrats representing you, because they are destroying New York City. They are destroying New York State. My name is Mark Shushkevich. It's the name with all the Z's in it. But I will not sleep on the job like other politicians do. Mark the number 4, M-A-R-K, the number 4, NewYork.com. Mark the number 4, NY on all social media platforms. Thank you again, and it's time we take New York City back, New York State back, and it's time we take our country back. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Yes. 下一位我们刚才我漏掉的是温州同商会的会长吴文光先生，请他来跟我们讲话温州 Association President Mr. Wu。
各位同胞，今天我们大家的心情都是一样的，都是不要说好不好了。今天说实在的，真的我们华人在这里真的很受气了，对吧？我来美国40多年了，从来没有见过到像现在这么坐火车要给人家推下来，回家要给人家杀掉，真的没办法。所以说我们大家一定要团结起来，尽量的有时候有机会出来选票，这是最主要的。听说现在那个纽约现在不管是公民绿卡都可以出来投票的，对这些好像政客对我们华人歧视我们华人的，一定要发出我们声音，把他们选下去。祝大家身体健康，一生平安，谢谢大家。
Okay, we're wrapping this up. From Hunter College High School, we have a student that came out today to read his speech of solidarity. Please welcome Leo Ni. Leo.
You know, as a child, one of the things I'll get yelled at for most is to honor my word. In my case, that was me promising something to my parents and not fulfilling it. But this proverb can be applied on a larger scale. In this country, officials aren't elected arbitrarily. We vote them into office because they promised us a better city, a better state, a better country. What's happening in our city, our state right now, is the breaking of that social contract. Mayor Adams promised us a change from the terrible de Blasio regime, and yet their homeless policy still exists. Governor Hochul promised us a juster justice system for vagrants and felons alike, and yet the bail-free release law still exists. They've both promised us safer streets, safer subways, and all we've gotten are skyrocketing crime rates, a sense of danger every time we step outside. In a time where people are trying to return to work, where students are trying to return to school, it should be our government's duty to make that transition easier for us. Yeah. In my school, more than 70% of the student body commutes to and from school by subway. The same subways where violence is becoming so commonplace that some of these crimes aren't even making the news. The mayor and governor's actions have caused strife for New York as a whole. Students and parents alike fear in just sending kids to school. Our government's broken promises have had very real effects on us. It's time to show them that it will also have very real effects on them, on their power, on their office. Let me remind you that we live in the United States, in the greatest democracy in the world. In New York, Hochul is not the government. We are the government. In New York City, Adams is not the government. We are the government. When our city and state barrages us with failed policies, evil laws, a deaf ear to our inputs, we yell, stop! We condemn these policies. We demand new ones. And we make sure they can hear our shouts. Let me remind you that you have a voice. not only can you vote, but you can use your voice. Even people like me, who aren't able to vote just yet, can yell to our city and our state what we want for our city and our state, because this is New York. When our city throws at us a failed homeless policy, we yell, stop. When our state signs in an evil bail release law, we yell, stop. Stop. We condemn them, and we demand new ones. In this time of need, when our government turns a blind eye to our needs, we will not stand here and let it happen. This isn't Eric Adams' city, it's our city. This isn't Hojo's state, it's our state. No to the homeless policy. No to the bail release law. We speak up, we speak out, because we will not let them get away with what they have done to us again.
Thank you, Leo. Very, very inspiring, and you're looking at the future of Brooklyn Chinatown leadership. Okay, our next speaker is a Brooklyn resident for a long time, Mr. Heng Chen. Cheng先生.
My name is Heng Chen. As a parent, we can't be silenced when our sisters and brothers are being attacked. We have to let our officials know how we feel, what's on our mind, so that we can hold them accountable for their actions or how they vote. Leo spoke about concerned parents sending their kids to school on the subway. I'm one of them. I'm one of the concerned parents. My daughter, when she was 14 years old, she got into the top school of her choice in Manhattan. We tried to convince her to not go to that school because she had to commute on the subway. Why should we have to do that as parents? Why do we have to look into options of moving to Long Island, into the suburbs, just to feel safe as parents? We shouldn't have to do that. This is a fundamental right to feel safe in our own city. This is our right, and we have to let everyone be heard. The way you let everyone be heard is go out to these rallies and vote. We shouldn't have to be afraid when we send our kids to the subway, and we shouldn't be afraid when we send our elderly parents to the supermarket. These are daily things that we must do in order to survive.
现在它不是封路的，这个车子还可以走。
You can do more than you think. Go out and vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
对，现场今天来的是很多人。大家好啊，大家好。刚才大家讨论我都没有参与，因为我不知道怎么说。现在纽约的确很乱，不管是地铁也好，反正给我的感觉就是不太安全了。
今天是非常寒冷，但是大家这么多人都冷。
现在我在布鲁克林的8大道62街这个 N 车的地铁口。
为什么变成不安全？我们要的是有人站出来给我们发声。我们也希望这种
大家看一下，
不要再发生。
这里也是一个华人比较多的社区吧，所以今天聚集了。 其实不只是在布鲁克林的那些华人，各个社区的华人应该都有来了吧？在地铁推人就是上一次，我们华人，哎呀，所以挺不安全的。大家不管是坐地铁也好啊，在纽约，晚上啊，都是特别的担心的。
感谢大家。
大家看一下，这站在这里的应该是一个，下面就是地铁的那个线路，这是一个桥。大家看一下，现场有警察，车子还在通行的，只是慢一点而已。这个集会是在这个地铁口，地铁的门口，刚好在地铁站的门口。 刚才我的话筒也是对着他们，所以杨洋也不方便讲话。 大家看一下，旁边都有贴有这些标语，这些我们华人发出的声音太小了，太小了，也不知道真的哪里出了问题。反正现在就是很混乱，感觉很不安全。如果大家有声音，也可以在杨洋的视频下面打出来，没事的，有什么话都可以讲。因为就是一种事情出来就不止一种声音，所以我是支持大家。从法拉盛就可以看到了，现在就说街上来了很多，不知不觉的多了很多那种像游民一样，成天在那里嗨完那个药以后就乱来的那种人，多了很多。我觉得哪一个地方不是一定安全的，所以危险就在我们身边，我们时刻都要保持警惕就好了。我带大家到这个往这边走一走吧，往这边走一走，看一下，这就是八大道，大家看一下，60，现在我走到61街了，走到61街了，61街八大道这里。杨洋今天到这边来，也算对社区的一种支持吧。因为发生这种事情，哎呀，真的是太不幸了。再往前面走，就是65街那个，之前我也有拍过，就是65街那边，就是准备在这里过去，应该是4个街口。准备建一个游民所，所以不知道为什么这么多的游民所会建在我们华人社区，这的确是要大家反省的，并不是说不支持游民，就是讨厌游民，排斥他们。杨洋没有这种想法，但是怎么样去管理他们，这是一个难题，也是大家的课题。因为游民所是建好了，并不是能把它关在里面就可以了，大家说是不是？还有很多问题，后续的问题，怎么样把他们管理好？我觉得游民有分几种吧，不单单是一种，不单单是没有家，就是无家可归者，不是一种。比如说有精神问题的，还有嗑药的那些很多，或者是受暴力的，应该把他们区分开来对待。就说有病得去医院，没有病的或者是受暴力的，对不对？可以住进里面，作为一个暂时的牺牲之所，这是可以的。但是笼统的把他们都称作游民，把他们一起关起来，但是有些人你是关不住他的。他会跑出来的，对不对？白天他会出来在街上，那就是特别的危险的某一种游民，不是特指全部的。大家说是不是呀？什么叫厉害？哈哈。杨洋一点都不厉害，有你们支持，杨洋才厉害呢。如果你们不支持杨洋，杨洋怎么厉害得起来，对不对？这些怎么说？这纽约的某一个角落吧，你别说怎么去比较，比经济还是比什么？我不知道怎么比。这个我也没有办法比，因为每一个地方有不同的政策，对不对？这些我就不好评论了。我特别感谢大家 对我的支持。35个人，现在35位朋友进来，35个赞，100%的赞了，太感谢了。这边呢就是华人最集中的，布鲁克林最集中的一个地方，就是华人聚集的8大道。所以还有什么好玩的？等一会儿杨洋看看有什么好拍的，拍一个视频吧。那今天这个直播就到这里了。如果大家还想看8大道的一些我们华人生活的一些一些场景，或者是一些有趣的，了解一下华人生活的话，杨洋等会呢还会直播，我看一看吧，看你们点赞的那个热情。好了，那这期直播就到这里了，感谢大家的收看，再见了。